There is a moment in every strong person's life when they realize that reaction is a luxury the weak cannot afford. The world is noisy, chaotic, and filled with people who depend on your emotional response to feel powerful. But the person who controls their reaction controls the entire situation. This audiobook is a blueprint for becoming untouchable. Today, you stop giving your power away. Today, you learn the discipline of silence. Not silence from weakness, but silence from absolute internal mastery.
Chapter 1. Stop giving people power over you. There is a truth most people never learn. A truth that decides who rises and who collapses. The truth is simple. Every time you react emotionally, you hand your power to someone else. Every time you let someone pull a reaction out of you, you enter their world on their terms. And the moment you enter their world, you lose control of your own. You may think your reaction is justified. You may think your anger proves something. You may believe your frustration shows you care. But here's the reality. Your reaction is the result they wanted. Your reaction feeds them. Your reaction validates them. And your reaction weakens you. Your silence is strength. Your reaction is their reward. You have a choice. You always have a choice. But you forget this when emotions take over. When someone disrespects you, you feel pressure to respond instantly. When someone provokes you, you feel the urge to fight back. When someone criticizes you, you feel the need to defend yourself. But that is the trap. That is the emotional bait. This is the key. The moment you react, you acknowledge their influence. And the moment you acknowledge their influence, you shrink your own. Think about your daily life. A coworker makes a passive-aggressive comment. A family member disrespects your boundaries. Someone online throws an insult at you. What do most people do? They fire back. They defend. They argue. They explain. They justify. But the strongest people don't do any of that. They don't react. They don't explain. They don't justify. They remain centered. Because they know something others don't. Control is more powerful than expression. Silence is more intimidating than anger. A calm mind is more dominant than a loud voice. When you stop giving people power over your emotions, you regain control over your life. You regain control over your direction. You regain control over your future. But how do you stop reacting when reacting feels automatic? You start by paying attention to the moment before the emotion. That tiny second right before your mind fires up. That fraction of a breath before you respond. That is your training ground. That is where you interrupt the old pattern that has controlled you for years. Because in that pause, something powerful happens. You see the trap for what it is. You see the manipulation unfolding. You see the intention behind the words. And when you see it, you stop falling for it. You have a choice. You always have a choice. And the choice is simple. React and lose, or pause and win. Reaction makes you predictable. Reaction makes you weak. Reaction makes you easy to control. But silence keeps them guessing. Silence keeps you centered. Silence keeps your power intact. Imagine you're at work. Someone disrespects your idea in a meeting. Your instinct is to defend yourself. Your ego wants to fight back. But when you say nothing, the dynamic changes. They expect resistance. Instead, they get stillness. They expect emotional energy. Instead, they receive a wall of calm. Suddenly, they don't know what you're thinking. They don't know what you're planning. They don't know how to influence you. And that uncertainty is power. That quiet confidence is power. That unshakable presence is power. Or think about family conflict, words thrown around carelessly, emotional buttons pushed deliberately, old patterns activated instantly. But the moment you decide not to react, the pattern collapses, the game ends, the emotional cycle breaks. This is not about suppression. This is not about pretending. This is not about passiveness. It is about discipline. You don't stay silent because you're scared. You stay silent because you refuse to let someone else decide your emotional state. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You don't need their approval to stay centered. You don't need their understanding to protect your peace. This is the key. Your reaction is a choice, not a reflex. And when you choose silence, you choose strength. Stop explaining yourself to people who want to misunderstand you. Stop reacting to people who want attention, not solutions. Stop giving emotional access to people who haven't earned it. You are not here to satisfy their expectation. You are not here to match their energy. You are not here to dance to their emotional rhythm. You are here to take back control. You are here to build discipline. You are here to rise above the noise. And that begins with this skill: zero reaction, controlled silence, calm dominance. You have learned the first truth. Your reaction is power. Now you must learn where that power goes when you lose control. You have reclaimed your strength. Now let's go deeper into the center of mental discipline.
Chapter 2. The Psychology of Zero Reaction. There is a reason your mind reacts so quickly, a reason your emotions jump ahead of your logic, a reason you feel the impulse before you feel the clarity. It's not your fault. It's how the human brain is wired. But wiring is not destiny. Instinct is not final, and impulse is not leadership. To master zero reaction, you must understand the psychology behind it. You must understand why your mind fires before you're ready, why your ego wants to respond instantly, why silence feels unnatural at first. It's not your fault. It's how the human brain is wired. But wiring is not destiny. Instinct is not final, and impulse is not leadership. To master zero reaction, you must understand the psychology behind it. You must understand why your mind fires before you're ready, why your ego wants to respond instantly, why silence feels unnatural at first. This is the key. Your brain is not built for peace. Your brain is built for survival. When someone criticizes you, your oldest part of your brain sees a threat. When someone disrespects you, your ego sees an attack. When someone challenges you, your identity feels endangered. That is why you react, not because they're powerful, not because you're weak, but because your brain thinks you're in danger. But here's the truth you must own today. You're not in danger. You're being triggered. And triggers are not threats. They're invitations. Invitations to lose control. Invitations to hand your power away. Invitations to show your emotional cards. You have a choice. You always have a choice. Impulse or intention, reaction or control, weakness or discipline. When someone tries to provoke you, your amygdala, the emotional part of your brain, fires instantly. It wants to protect your ego. It wants to defend your identity. It wants to strike back, argue, respond, attack. But the strongest version of you does not live in the amygdala. The strongest version of you lives in the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for clarity, strategy, logic, and leadership. This is why silence feels so difficult. Your emotional brain fires instantly. Your rational brain activates slowly. Reaction is fast. Wisdom is slow. Impulse is instant. Discipline takes a pause. That pause is everything. Pause, breathe,
Choose power, not impulse. When you pause, you disengage the emotional system. When you breathe, you lower the internal pressure. When you choose silence, you shift the power dynamic. That short pause, 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, breaks the entire psychological pattern. In that pause, your mind regains control. In that pause, your ego loses urgency. In that pause, your awareness expands. You become the observer, not the reactor. You become the strategist, not the victim. You become the leader of your internal world. Consider high-level leaders, CEOs, negotiators, world leaders, elite athletes. They do not react emotionally. They do not respond instantly. They do not allow triggers to dictate their decisions. Why? Because they understand this universal law. The one who reacts first loses leverage. The one who maintains silence owns the moment. Imagine a negotiation where one person becomes angry. The negotiation is lost, not because of the numbers, but because of the reaction. Emotion blinds strategy. Now imagine an argument where one person stays silent, calm, collected, grounded. Their silence is not emptiness, it is control. It forces the other person to reveal everything, their insecurity, their manipulation, their weakness. Silence exposes what emotion tries to hide. This is not about being passive. It is not about suppressing what you feel. It is not about pretending. It's not about weakness. It's about discipline. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You don't need their acceptance to stay silent. You don't need their understanding to protect your mental energy. Your job is not to react. Your job is to think, to observe, to understand the psychology unfolding in front of you. The moment you stay silent, you disrupt the emotional economy of the interaction. The other person expects a reaction. They depend on it. It validates their attack. It feeds their insecurity. It satisfies their ego. Take that reaction away, and you take their power away. Take their power away, and you take your peace back. Pause. Breathe. Choose power, not impulse. If you practice this daily, you will notice a shift. People will treat you differently. They will measure their words around you. They will sense your strength without you saying a single thing. You will become the person who cannot be moved, the person who cannot be provoked, the person who cannot be manipulated. And this is only the beginning. You now understand the psychological foundation. You know why the mind reacts. You know why silence is difficult. You know why the pause is powerful. You have taken control of the internal battlefield. Now it's time to turn that internal power into a strategic external advantage. You've learned the mind. Now you will learn the method.
Chapter 3. Emotional neutrality is a superpower. Emotional neutrality is not the absence of emotion. Emotional neutrality is the mastery of emotion. It is the ability to feel without being controlled, to notice without collapsing, to observe without reacting. This is the key. Neutrality is clarity. Clarity is domination. Most people live in emotional chaos. They swing from anger to excitement, from fear to confidence, from impatience to regret, all within minutes. They are controlled by their feelings. They are ruled by their impulses. They cannot separate emotional noise from logical truth. But you are not here to live like most people. You are here to rise. You are here to build a mind that stays steady under pressure. You are here to become the calmest person in the room. Because the calmest person is always the strongest, always the clearest, always the one in control. You have a choice. You always have a choice. And emotional neutrality is that choice. It is not about weakness, it is about discipline. When you stay neutral, you protect your mental bandwidth. You protect your decision-making power. You protect your long-term goals from short-term emotional storms. Think of military leaders who must make decisions when everything is falling apart. They cannot afford panic. They cannot afford fear-driven reactions. They cannot afford emotional impulse. They rely on neutrality, not because they don't feel stress, but because they refuse to let stress drive the mission. Neutrality gives them clarity. Clarity gives them domination. Or think of elite athletes, champions, performers under extreme pressure. They do not operate from emotion. They operate from focus. Their heart might be racing, but their mind stays neutral. Why? Because emotion creates chaos, but neutrality creates precision. The same applies to negotiators. The best negotiators do not raise their voice, they do not show frustration, they do not reveal excitement. They stay neutral, and in doing so, they control the entire interaction. Neutrality is power. Neutrality is leverage. Neutrality is strategic dominance. But how do you build emotional neutrality in your own life? You start with one habit. Separate what you feel from what you do. You can feel anger without acting angry. You can feel fear without acting afraid. You can feel frustration without reacting impulsively. Your feelings are not commands. Your emotions are not instructions. They are signals, nothing more. Signals you observe, not signals you obey. You don't need their permission to stay neutral. You don't need their validation to protect your peace. You don't need their approval to operate from clarity. Emotional neutrality begins with awareness. You notice the emotion, you label it, you breathe through it, and then you choose your response. This is the power word in your life now. Choose. You have a choice. You always have a choice. And the old version of you would explode. The old version of you would defend. The old version of you would react. But the new version of you doesn't move that way. The new version of you pauses. The new version of you observes. The new version of you chooses the highest response, not the quickest. Neutrality is not coldness. Neutrality is control. Neutrality is the refusal to let temporary emotion destroy long-term stability. When someone tries to provoke you, remain neutral. When someone brings drama to your door, remain neutral. When someone disrespects you, remain neutral. Not because you're weak, but because reacting is expensive, and neutrality is priceless. Neutrality prevents people from manipulating you. Neutrality prevents you from making decisions you regret. Neutrality keeps your energy from being hijacked. Neutrality is clarity. Clarity is domination. Say it again. Neutrality is clarity. Clarity is domination. Imagine someone criticizes you. Your old self reacts instantly, defending, arguing, explaining. But the powerful you remains neutral. You observe without attachment. You respond with composure. You decide from clarity, not from ego. You win by not entering the emotional battlefield at all. And neutrality is not just used in conflict, it is used in everything. In business decisions, in financial choices, in relationships, in personal discipline, in self-improvement. Neutrality ensures that you act from strength instead of impulse. People will eventually notice. They will see the shift. They will realize you cannot be pushed, pulled, or provoked. They will treat you differently because you operate differently. Your neutrality becomes your armor. Your clarity becomes your power. Your composure becomes your identity. You are not living in emotional chaos anymore. You are not controlled by what you feel. You are controlled by what you decide. You have reached a new level of internal strength. You have taken ownership of your emotional world. You have stepped into a mindset few people ever achieve. But neutrality is only part of the system. Now you must build the mental habits that prevent automatic reactions entirely. You have mastered clarity. Now it's time to break the cycle of emotional impulsiveness once and for all.
Chapter 4. Train your mind to stop reacting automatically. You react faster than you think, faster than logic, faster than awareness. That is why you lose control, not because you are weak, but because you are automatic. Automatic reactions destroy discipline. Automatic reactions sabotage clarity. Automatic reactions make you a prisoner to your impulses. You don't want that. You don't need that. And more importantly, you can change that. This chapter is about retraining your mind, not to react, but to choose, because you always have a choice. A reaction is an automatic impulse. A choice is a conscious decision. The distance between reaction and choice is power. Your goal is simple. Delay your reaction, increase your control. Repeat it again. Delay your reaction, increase your control. When you delay, you take command. When you delay, you disconnect from your emotional trigger. When you delay, you rise above your old patterns. This is the key. This is the shift. This is where strength is built, not by force, but by awareness. Step 1. Intercept the thought. Every emotional reaction begins with a thought, a quick judgment, a flash of emotion, a story your mind creates instantly. Most people don't intercept that thought. They never even see it. They just obey it. But you are not like most people. You are training your mind. You are building discipline. Interception requires one sentence. Stop. What am I about to do? This single question creates space. This single question breaks the automatic pattern. This single question puts you back in control. Ask it every time you feel yourself tightening up. Ask it every time you feel irritated. Ask it every time you feel attacked. This is how you intercept. This is how you take your mind off autopilot. Step 2. Delay the response. Silence is power. Silence is control. Silence is confidence. You don't need to answer instantly. You don't need to defend instantly. You don't need to fight instantly. Instant reactions are emotional. Delayed reactions are strategic. You choose the delay. 2 seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, a minute, an hour, a day. The time is not important. The intention is. The delay is your training ground. The delay is where your discipline grows. The delay is where old habits die. Say it again. Delay your reaction. Increase your control. Step 3. Emotional decompression. Your emotions need ventilation, not explosion, not suppression, ventilation. You decompress by stepping away internally, breathing deeply, naming the emotion, separating yourself from the heat of the moment. Anger is a signal. Stress is a signal. Fear is a signal, but none of them are commands.
Your emotions don't own you. You own them. If you decompress, you lead. If you don't, they lead. And you already know the truth. You are done being led by emotional impulses. Step 4. Replace reaction with deliberate silence. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not surrender. Silence is not passiveness. Silence is discipline. Silence is strategy. Silence is strength. You don't need to respond to everything. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to justify yourself. Silence allows you to observe. Silence allows you to think. Silence allows you to choose the best move, not the fastest one. This is how mature minds work. This is how resilient minds work. This is how unshakable minds work. Train yourself to pause. Train yourself to breathe. Train yourself to listen before reacting. You don't need their permission. You don't need their validation. You don't need their approval. You only need your discipline. You only need your awareness. You only need your choice. You have trained your mind to slow down. You have taught yourself to choose. You have taken the first steps toward true self-mastery. And now you are ready for the next level. You have mastered your reactions. Now let's talk about the real currency that shapes your life.
Chapter 5. Silence is a strategy, not a weakness. Silence is not empty. Silence is not passive. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strategy. Silence is leverage. Silence is power. You were taught to speak, to explain, to react, to defend, to justify. That conditioning made you predictable. And predictable people are easy to control. You are not here to be predictable. You are here to be powerful. Silence protects you. Silence positions you. Say it again. Silence protects you. Silence positions you. Most people fear silence. They rush to fill it. They panic inside it. They feel exposed by it. That's why they talk too much. They reveal too much. They hand away their advantage without even knowing it. You won't make that mistake anymore. You are training yourself to use silence as a weapon. And that changes everything. Silence breaks emotional cycles. Imagine a heated argument. Someone raises their voice. They expect you to rise with them. They want to pull you into chaos. They want you to match their emotion. Because the moment you match them, they win. Why? Because emotional people lose clarity. Emotional people lose strategy. Emotional people lose control. But picture yourself silent, calm, steady, unmoved. Your silence disrupts the entire pattern. Your silence forces them to confront their own behavior. Your silence exposes their lack of control. This is the key. When you refuse to react, the other person reacts to themselves. They become uncomfortable. They become off balance. They become the only one in the room losing control. Silence protects you. Silence positions you. Silence gives you time to think. You don't need fast decisions. You need accurate decisions, strategic decisions, disciplined decisions. Fast is emotional. Slow is powerful. When you stay silent, even for a few seconds, you create space. Space to see the situation clearly. Space to examine your thoughts. Space to choose the response, not the reaction. This is where strength is built. Not in the noise, in the pause.
You have a choice, always. Silence is the space that reveals that choice.
Silence protects your energy. Talking drains energy. Reacting drains energy. Defending drains energy. Every unnecessary word is a leak in your discipline. Every emotional response is a break in your focus. You don't need their permission. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to match the speed of other people's chaos. Silence stops the bleeding. Silence protects your mental resources. Silence keeps you in control of your emotional currency. Winners don't waste energy. Winners conserve. Winners observe. Winners choose their moment. This is what you are becoming. A person who chooses. A person who observes. A person who no longer reacts on command. Silence exposes manipulation. When someone cannot control you with pressure, they expose themselves. They show their intent. They reveal their tactics. They reveal their insecurities. Silence reveals everything they tried to hide. People who manipulate rely on noise. They rely on emotional spikes. They rely on your quick responses. But when you respond with silence, their playbook collapses. The pressure stops working. The guilt stops working. The urgency stops working. Why? Because you are no longer reacting automatically. You are choosing deliberately. And a person who chooses deliberately is impossible to manipulate. Silence protects you. Silence positions you. Silence makes you unpredictable. Predictability is a weakness. Predictability makes you easy to read, easy to control, easy to push. Silence disrupts that. Silence confuses people who expect you to respond instantly. Silence makes others adjust to you instead of you adjusting to them. When you control the rhythm, you control the outcome. When you slow down the interaction, you increase your power. When you refuse to speak first, you force the world to reveal itself. This is strategy. This is discipline. This is strength. Silence builds authority. Authority isn't loud. Authority isn't reactive. Authority isn't emotional. Authority is calm. Authority is deliberate. Authority is collected. When you speak less, your words gain weight. When you speak with intention, people listen. When you speak after silence, your message lands with impact. You don't need to dominate the conversation. You need to control yourself. That's real authority. That's real confidence. It's not about noise. It's about discipline. Not about reaction. About control. Your new rule. Pause before you speak. Pause before you react. Pause before you respond. 1 second. 2 seconds. 5 seconds. That pause is your power. That pause is your clarity. That pause is your strategy. Silence protects you. Silence positions you. Hold on to that. You have learned the strength of silence. You have learned to use it as a shield and a weapon. You have learned to hold your power instead of handing it away. Now you are ready for the next level. You have mastered silence. Now let's talk about the internal battlefield you must win next.
Chapter 6. When disrespect demands zero reaction. Disrespect is a test. Disrespect is a trap. Disrespect is an invitation to lose control. And most people accept that invitation immediately. They react. They explode. They defend. They argue. They explain themselves to people who never deserved a single word. But you are not here to react. You are here to rise. You are here to evolve. You are here to build discipline so strong that nothing external can pull you out of your center. This is the key. If it cannot touch your mind, it cannot touch your life. Most disrespect only lives as long as you feed it. It thrives on your reaction. It survives on your attention. It gains power every time you respond. Your reaction is oxygen. Your silence is suffocation. You must learn the psychology behind disrespect. You must understand why people use it and what they expect from you. Because when you understand the game, you can stop playing it. Disrespect is a psychological attack. Disrespect is rarely about you. It's almost always about them, their ego, their insecurity, their jealousy, their desire for control, their fear of your potential. People disrespect you when they feel threatened by you. You need to understand that truth. Internalize it. Own it. Someone who feels secure doesn't need to belittle you. Someone who feels confident doesn't need to challenge you. Someone who feels strong doesn't need to embarrass you. Disrespect is a projection, a confession, a glimpse into someone's internal weakness. And here is where discipline comes in. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You don't need their validation to stay centered. You don't need their approval to hold your power. If it cannot touch your mind, it cannot touch your life. Reacting to disrespect validates it. When you react emotionally, you prove their tactic works. When you react emotionally, you reinforce their behavior. When you react emotionally, you give them dominance over the situation. And here's the truth most people never learn. Not every insult deserves your attention. Not every loud voice deserves your response. Not every challenger deserves your energy. When you respond, you elevate them. When you respond, you make them your equal. When you respond, you tell them they matter. Silence says something different. Silence says, you are not relevant. Silence says, you have no effect on me. Silence says, your attempt failed. If it cannot touch your mind, it cannot touch your life. Indifference is the most powerful counterattack. Bullies cannot fight indifference. Jealous people cannot penetrate indifference. Manipulators cannot bend indifference. Egotistical people cannot stand indifference. Why? Because indifference destroys their entire strategy. They want emotional reaction. They want attention. They want chaos. They want to knock you off your center. When you give them nothing, you win everything. Your indifference exposes them. It magnifies their insecurity. It shows them their behavior has no impact. It forces them to confront themselves. You don't need to shout. You don't need to argue. You don't need to teach them a lesson. Your silence is the lesson. If it cannot touch your mind, it cannot touch your life. Real-world example: the workplace attack. Imagine a coworker trying to embarrass you in front of others. They make a comment, a jab, a sarcastic remark. They expect you to react. They expect you to defend yourself. They expect you to justify. But imagine this instead. You stay calm. You stay neutral. You stay unmoved. Their words hit a wall. Your lack of reaction leaves them exposed. Everyone in the room sees who is really in control, and it's not the person who is loud. It's the person who is disciplined. It's not about ego. It's about discipline, not about reaction, about control. If it cannot touch your mind, it cannot touch your life. Protect your emotional territory. You must guard your mind like a fortress. Not everyone deserves access to your emotions. Not everyone deserves entry into your psychological space. When someone disrespects you, ask yourself, do they matter? Is this worth my energy? Will reacting improve anything? If the answer is no, then your response is simple. Silence, stillness, zero reaction. This is strength. This is mastery. This is emotional sovereignty. Your new standard. From now on, disrespect does not pull you out of your center. It does not trigger you. It does not drain you. It does not define you. You have a choice. You always have a choice. And now you choose discipline over reaction. You choose indifference over chaos. You choose power over impulse. If it cannot touch your mind, it cannot touch your life. Hold on to that. You have learned to starve disrespect with silence. You have learned to maintain power by refusing to react. You have learned to protect your mind from emotional attacks. Now you are ready for the next evolution in your discipline. You have mastered indifference. Now let's talk about the inner dialogue that shapes your entire reality.
Chapter 7. Use non-reaction to win internal battles. Every battle you face in the outer world begins in the inner world. Every reaction you give to others is born from the reactions you failed to control inside yourself. That is why the real war is not against disrespect, critics, or chaos. The real war is against your own thoughts, your doubts, your fears, your insecurities, your emotional impulses. This is the key. If you cannot master your inner reactions, you will never master your outer responses. People spend their lives trying to control situations, trying to control other people, trying to control outcomes, but the truth is simple and uncomfortable. Most people cannot even control a single thought, a single emotion, a single impulse. And that is where your real discipline begins. You have a choice. You always have a choice. To either react to the noise inside your mind or to rise above it. Today, you learn how to rise. Your mind is loud until you train it. Your mind will offer you 1,000 reactions every day. I'm not good enough. I'm afraid of failing. What if they don't like me? What if I embarrass myself? These thoughts appear automatically. They are habits, old patterns, untrained reflexes. You don't control their arrival, but you control what happens next. You control whether you react or not. And this is where your new strength begins. You do not have to respond to every thought your mind produces. You don't need their permission. You don't need their logic. You don't need their approval. A thought is not a command. A thought is not the truth. A thought is not you. When doubt rises, you don't need to react. When fear whispers, you don't need to obey. When insecurity screams, you don't need to fold. Silence is power. Internal silence is mastery. Master your inner world. The outer world will follow. Internal non-reaction is a skill. Just like physical strength, internal discipline is built through repetition. Every time a fearful thought appears and you do not react, you grow stronger.
Every time an insecure thought rises and you remain centered, you grow sharper. Every time your mind tries to pull you into panic and you choose stillness, you grow wiser. This is the key. Non-reaction to your own thoughts is the foundation of true confidence. Confidence does not come from success. Confidence comes from self-command, from knowing you will not collapse under the weight of your own mind. You have a choice: react to the noise or stand in the silence behind it. The strongest version of you is not loud, not dramatic, not frantic. The strongest version of you is calm, clear, decisive. Master your inner world. The outer world will follow. Real-world example, the inner spiral. Imagine you're about to speak in a meeting. Suddenly the mind throws doubts at you. What if I sound stupid? What if they judge me? What if I mess up? Most people react to those thoughts instantly. They freeze, they hide, they retreat. But imagine this instead. The thoughts appear and you do nothing. You don't fight them. You don't argue with them. You don't negotiate. You let them pass. You let them dissolve. You refuse to react. Suddenly, the fear loses its power. The doubt loses its grip. The insecurity loses its impact. Because you didn't feed it. You didn't validate it. You didn't bow to it. Your mind offered panic, and you answered with silence. That is mastery. That is command. That is what separates the reactive from the extraordinary. Master your inner world. The outer world will follow. Internal silence builds self-trust. When you choose non-reaction to your inner triggers, something powerful begins to grow. Self-trust. You begin to trust that you can handle pressure. You begin to trust that you can handle fear. You begin to trust that you can handle uncertainty. You become your own anchor, your own stability, your own leader. And this is the point most people never reach. When you stop reacting to the chaos inside your mind, life becomes clear. Decisions become easier. Challenges become manageable. Opportunities become visible. Neutrality is clarity. Clarity is domination. Master your inner world. The outer world will follow. Your new standard. From this moment forward, you refuse to react to the fear your mind creates. You refuse to respond to old patterns that no longer serve you. You refuse to let insecurity dictate your behavior. You have a choice, and you choose strength. You choose silence. You choose self-command. Master your inner world. The outer world will follow. Now that you know how to silence the chaos within, you are ready for the next principle of zero reaction, the one that determines your long-term power. You have learned to control the inner noise. Now let's talk about building a mind that cannot be manipulated.
Chapter 8. Zero Reaction in Moments of Failure. Failure is unavoidable. Failure is universal. Failure is part of every path that leads to strength, growth, and mastery. But here is the truth most people never learn. Failure is not what destroys people. Emotional overreaction is. It's not the mistake that breaks you. It's the panic. It's the self-blame. It's the mental collapse. It's the story you tell yourself after the setback. Failure is feedback, not a verdict. Failure is information, not identity. Failure is a moment, not your destiny. You have a choice. You can react emotionally, or you can respond strategically.
This chapter teaches you how to stay calm when everything goes wrong, how to remain centered when life derails your plans, how to choose discipline instead of despair. This is the key. Zero reaction is the shield that protects your mindset while you rebuild. Failure feels personal, but it isn't. When something fails, your plan, your project, your relationship, your mind tells you it's about you, that you are the failure, that you should have known better, that you are not capable, not prepared, not enough. But that is ego speaking. That is fear speaking. That is shame speaking. Failure is neutral. We are the ones who add emotion to it. A failure doesn't define you. It exposes you. It shows you exactly where your discipline needs to grow. It shows you your blind spots, your weaknesses, your assumptions. This is valuable. This is necessary. This is the real path to strength. Failure is feedback, not a verdict. When you react emotionally to failure, you miss the message. You drown in the noise. You lose clarity. You lose momentum. But when you stay neutral, the lesson becomes sharp. The insight becomes clear. The next step becomes obvious. Zero reaction is not denial. Zero reaction is control. The emotional spiral after failure. Most people sabotage themselves more after the failure than during the failure. They spiral. They replay the mistake. They exaggerate the consequences. They judge themselves. They attack themselves. They catastrophize the future. This spiral is not failure. This spiral is a reaction to failure. And here's what you must understand. Your reaction determines whether the failure becomes a turning point or a downward spiral. You have a choice, and you must choose discipline. You must choose steadiness. You must choose stillness. Failure is feedback, not a verdict. Emotional stillness after failure. Emotional stillness is a skill. It is the ability to remain internally quiet after something goes wrong. It is the ability to pause before you collapse. It is the ability to evaluate without self-attack. Stillness allows you to see the truth. Stillness allows you to gather information. Stillness allows you to regain control. When failure hits, bring your mind back to 3 principles. 1. Pause. Stop yourself from reacting. Stop the narratives. Stop the self-criticism. 2. Breathe. Calm the nervous system. Reset your internal state. Remind yourself you are in control. And 3. Analyze the facts, not the emotions. What actually happened? What did you assume? What will you do differently? This 3-step approach is your anchor. It keeps you from drowning in your own reaction. It keeps you from turning a small issue into a major collapse. Failure is feedback, not a verdict. Instant recovery rituals. High performers have recovery rituals. They do not wait for emotions to stabilize. They create stability. They enforce it. They build it through habit. Here are 3 powerful rituals that protect your mind after failure. 1. The 5-minute breakdown rule. You can feel your frustration, but only for 5 minutes. After that, the focus shifts to solutions, not emotion, discipline. 2. The written reset. Write down exactly what went wrong. Then write down what you will do next. This shifts your mind from emotional reaction to strategic action. And 3. The immediate reframe. Every failure must be followed by a constructive statement. What did this teach me? What is the correction? What grows from this?
These rituals stop the spiral before it begins. They protect your momentum. They protect your mindset. They protect your identity. Failure is feedback, not a verdict. Real-world example, athletic failure. A professional athlete misses the final shot. They lose the game. The crowd reacts. The media reacts. Their team reacts. But the legendary players, the ones who rise above pressure, do not collapse internally. They do not spiral. They do not surrender to emotion. They analyze. They adjust. They adapt. They remain neutral, even when the world reacts for them. That's what makes them champions. Their greatness isn't in how they win, it's in how they recover. Failure reveals character. Zero reaction builds it. Your new standard. From now on, you refuse to emotionally self-destruct after failure. You refuse to spiral into doubt and regret. You refuse to let one moment of setback define your identity. You have a choice, and you choose control. You choose awareness. You choose discipline. Failure is feedback, not a verdict. You have learned how to stay calm in the collapse. Now it's time to learn how to rebuild with power. You have mastered emotional stillness in failure. Now let's talk about the strength that emerges when you remove your ego from the equation.
Chapter 9. Discipline is built in the moments you stay silent. Discipline is not built in grand gestures. Discipline is not built in big speeches. Discipline is not built in rare victories. Discipline is built in the small moments, the quiet moments, the moments no one sees, the moments you choose control over impulse, the moments you stay silent when every part of you wants to react. This is the key. Control equals consistency. Consistency equals dominance. Every time you resist reacting, you train yourself. Every time you hold back, you build strength. Every time you choose awareness over emotion, you reinforce your power. It's not about weakness, it's about discipline. Not about silence, about mastery. Not about restraint, about domination over yourself. The power of small decisions. Every day you face hundreds of small moments. A rude comment at work, a frustrating driver on the road, a tempting distraction while you should focus, an impulse to speak when silence serves you better, a craving that tempts your discipline. Most people react. Most people give in. Most people lose. But you are training to win. You are training to hold yourself accountable. You are training to choose the path of long-term victory. Each silent choice, each resisted impulse, each moment of non-reaction, these are the building blocks of mental toughness. These are the bricks of your fortress. These are the exercises that grow your discipline. Control equals consistency. Consistency equals dominance. Say it again. Control equals consistency. Consistency equals dominance. Examples of everyday discipline. Imagine this scenario. A colleague provokes you. Your instinct says, argue, defend, attack. Your new instinct says, pause, breath, observe, choose silence. That moment of self-restraint does more for your power than 10 arguments ever could. You have reinforced your center. You have reinforced your authority. You have reinforced your control. Or consider temptation. You crave food you shouldn't eat. You crave distraction you shouldn't indulge in. You crave an impulsive purchase or an unhelpful habit.
Resisting doesn't feel like victory in the moment. It feels like nothing. And that is exactly why it is effective. Because discipline is invisible until it becomes unstoppable. Control equals consistency. Consistency equals dominance. Why silence builds strength. Silence is not submission. Silence is not apathy. Silence is not weakness. Silence is self-command. Silence is foresight. Silence is strategy. Every moment you stay silent, you reduce chaos. Every moment you do not react, you preserve energy. Every moment you resist the immediate, you strengthen the long term. This is how champions operate. This is how leaders operate. This is how unshakable people operate. They do not let external forces dictate their behavior. They do not let impulses control their day. They do not give away power in arguments, in cravings, in distractions. Control equals consistency. Consistency equals dominance. Mental training through non-reaction. Think of every temptation, provocation, and distraction as a mental weight. Every reaction is a surrender. Every non-reaction is a push-up for your willpower. Each time you pause instead of reacting, your mental muscles grow. Each time you restrain an impulse, your self-command strengthens. Each time you choose discipline over emotion, your capacity for greatness expands. This is why self-discipline is cumulative. It's built day after day, moment after moment, silence after silence. You have a choice. You always have a choice. And now you choose dominance. You have learned that discipline grows in silence. You have learned that each withheld reaction strengthens you. You have learned that mastery is built moment by moment. Now the final step awaits, the ultimate level of zero reaction, where ego, pride, and fear no longer dictate your life. You have mastered consistent control. Now, let's talk about total emotional sovereignty.
Chapter 10. Become the person who cannot be provoked.
This is the final level, the ultimate form of discipline. The point where zero reaction becomes not just a habit, but your identity. You have trained your mind. You have controlled your impulses. You have mastered silence. You have learned to withstand disrespect. You have learned to manage failure. You have built mental toughness in every unseen moment. Now, it is time to become the person who cannot be provoked. This is the key. When you cannot be provoked, you cannot be defeated. Most people live as reactive beings. They are tossed by emotions, tugged by insults, shaken by circumstances. They are controlled by every minor disruption. You will be different. You will be unshakable. You will radiate calm power. You will become a force that cannot be manipulated. What it means to be unprovocable does not mean cold. It does not mean detached from life. It does not mean emotionless. It means deliberate. It means disciplined. It means conscious. You control what touches your mind. You control what touches your energy. You control what touches your life. You don't need permission to remain calm. You don't need validation to remain centered. You don't need approval to stay powerful. You have a choice, always. And now, you choose to be invulnerable to provocation. The world reacts to unprovocable people. When people realize you cannot be emotionally moved, they start treating you differently. Disrespect stops working. Manipulation fails. Criticism loses its sting. They respect you more. They exercise caution. They admire your composure. Your power is not loud. It is not aggressive. It is steady, silent, and undeniable. Control equals authority. Authority equals influence. Influence equals results. When you cannot be provoked, you cannot be defeated. The internal mechanism of calm power. Being unprovocable is not magic. It is a process, a discipline, a series of choices made every day in every moment. It begins with your thoughts. You choose which ones deserve attention. You choose which ones deserve reaction. You choose which ones you feed and which ones you starve. It continues with your words. You do not speak to every insult. You do not argue with every critic. You do not explain yourself to every skeptic. It extends to your actions. You act strategically, not impulsively. You respond, not react. You lead, not follow. This is not weakness. This is discipline. Not passivity, dominance. Not fear, mastery. When you cannot be provoked, you cannot be defeated. Real-world example, the leader who stands still. Think of leaders who never lose their composure. They are calm in crises. They are deliberate under pressure. They are silent when others panic. They are respected, feared, and followed, not because they dominate by force, but because they dominate by control. No one can manipulate them. No one can destabilize them. No one can provoke them into losing clarity. Their power comes from silence. Their authority comes from consistency. Their strength comes from discipline. When you cannot be provoked, you cannot be defeated. Daily practices to become unprovocable. 1. Pause before you react. Every insult, every frustration, every challenge is an opportunity to practice stillness. Pause, breathe, observe. Choose power, not impulse. 2. Internalize control. Your emotional state is your responsibility. Do not hand it to anyone. Do not surrender it to circumstances. Control it internally, consistently, consciously. 3. Reinforce mental boundaries. Decide what deserves your energy. Decide what deserves your attention. Decide what deserves a reaction. Everything else is noise. 4. Radiate calm confidence. Even when challenged, remain steady. Even when criticized, remain centered. Even when chaos surrounds you, remain composed. When you practice this daily, your presence becomes unshakable. Your energy becomes untouchable. Your influence becomes undeniable.
Your new identity. From this moment forward, you are no longer reactive. You are not ruled by emotion. You are not moved by insult. You are not shaken by fear. You are deliberate. You are calm. You are powerful. You are unprovocable. You have a choice, and now you choose dominance over impulse. You choose mastery over reaction. You choose to become the person who cannot be provoked. When you cannot be provoked, you cannot be defeated. You have completed the journey. You have trained your mind. You have mastered your emotions. You have built discipline through silence, stillness, and consistency. Now your presence alone commands respect. Your calm alone influences outcomes. Your unshakable self-control guarantees victory.
You have become the person who cannot be provoked, and in this, you have become unstoppable.
Your life changes the moment you stop reacting. Your mind becomes quieter, your decisions sharper, and your presence stronger. The power of zero reaction is not about staying silent because you are afraid. It is about staying silent because you have risen above. You no longer chase validation. You no longer defend your worth, and you no longer hand your power to anyone who wants to shake you. Every moment of silence builds control. Every controlled response builds discipline. And every chapter you've heard is a brick in the foundation of a stronger, calmer, unshakable you. Carry this mindset into every challenge you face. Protect your energy. Guard your reactions. Move with intention, not emotion. And remember, the person who cannot be provoked cannot be defeated. If this audiobook brought you value, subscribe for more powerful guides. Your transformation continues with the next lesson.